Hi, I'm Liz.
And I'm Rhea.
Welcome to Karma's My Bitch, a podcast about love,
Sex,
connection,
abundance,
joy,
purpose,
peace,
and how life isn't simply the stories we tell ourselves.
So much around our ideas of luck have to do with our relationship to our karma.
We always kept expecting for everything to go to shit, which it did. So we were trying everything we could in every single way to kind of try and stop that from happening, which I think signals our desire for better.
Yes,
but
very much.
I think we were just going around it the wrong way. But saying that, there are such things as hexes and curses, etc., because we spoke about it in a previous episode.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah,
so
very much. They are very real. They are
so
very real.
how do you ward off them if you don't believe in luck?
Well, you would, back in the day, and that's why superstitions, there's always been truth around superstitions. When we don't feel capable of managing, or we feel that we can't be responsible for what we might term our bad luck, which is effectively our karma, we're going to fall back on that. And so sometimes superstitions are also used by witches, or magic is used, like good magic, to kind of help facilitate luck or fortune. And that is kind of used to kind of counterbalance either karma or the dark arts or whatever separation forces we feel we're battling.
Okay.
And it's very real. We're not going to have an episode about something that we're just going to say what's all in your head and deal with it and let it go. Well, It doesn't work that way.
But how do you make it not exist anymore? Because the thing about superstitions is I do think we need to start making them a thing of our past. And not just because of our relationship with karma and because we know that we can change the course of our bad luck, but because they keep us in a cycle of fear and insecurity.
Very much.
So even I think about the superstitions, like there are certain parking spaces I won't park in, or there are certain things I won't do. There are loads of superstitions that I've grown up with. And I always think to myself, if a relationship or a moment is so fragile that it can be broken by the color bra I am wearing, then I have a problem. And you can say that from like a kind of mental, psychology-ish space, in that we're trying to think we're not the masters of everyone else's universes. And I get that. And that's a really good way to think. But if you think about it from like what we teach, I can't help but eventually land on, well, surely my power is stronger than that.
Very much.
The issue is, obviously, and this is like therapy for Rhea right now.
That's why in our invocation, the word healing was one of the words which we never had. And I thought, that's an interesting choice.
I was like, thanks. Because the truth is, I have had, out of my karma, out of everything, some unfortunate things have happened that have altered moments and relationships. If for a brief period of time, or a longer brief period of time, it didn't fundamentally break them, but it did alter them. So I feel like sometimes what I try and do when I engage with superstitions and stuff, as much as I don't want to, I feel like I'm almost trying to counteract everything else. Because the truth is, as much as people want each other to be happy, you can't help but see it through your own lens, right? So if someone's really happy and joyful around you, you compare it to yourself. Like I remember when I first started, like a good news thing would happen to me, and then a friend would be like, oh, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm like, but why? It's nothing to do with you. Or, when you'll just show up somewhere smiling and joyful and the happiest person ever, and you feel like people aren't so happy for you. And I used to really internalize that. So I kind of sometimes I straddle between, I should be powerful enough that none of this matters. But my past dictates that I haven't been.
Yeah.
So I tend to rely on superstitions and stuff because I feel like if I don't, sometimes you just need that extra sprinkle of fairy dust. Yeah. Which I guess is what magic really is. So it's just a bit, I don't know. That is just my word vomit. I want to be free. I want to be able to have everything I desire whenever I desire it in the best way possible, and not have to worry about what I did in the minutes leading up to it, so that I could recreate it later or keep it going, or all the things. It's a very cultural thing. Yes. We have the evil eyes everywhere. God forbid someone passes salt hand to hand on a dining room table. It's part of it's
just
part
burn
of,
the table after that.
Yes, but it's just
burn
like
down the house.
It's part of my wiring.
It's part of all of our wirings, Rhea. Not to not make it about you.
No, it's fine.
And this actually makes me want to go back to the beginning a little bit, because we do have to unpick this a bit. And I'm going to take my time doing this because this is really interesting. And I want this to help people, as many people as possible, because you're not the only one who internalized and operates with a fair amount of superstition. So, and I've seen this, and a lot of people have it. We have to acknowledge the reality. We have our karmic reality, where things are good until they go bad. And we have superstitions that we've often used, or what we might term good magic or light or whatever, to be able to counterbalance that. We would always have priests, shamans, medicine people, psychics, whatever, fortune tellers who we could go to, be like, well, when is the most auspicious time for this to happen? When can I do this? If you think about it, we have always operated from such a place where somebody else, some seer, some gifted person, would help us through, because we didn't feel powerful enough to dictate our reality. Because we weren't strong enough to withstand Mother Nature. We couldn't necessarily understand or foresee if some other disaster might wipe us out. But our very basic survival can never feel guaranteed. And that wiring is still in many of us. Now, you want to layer that with some other crazy shit, like what you have also, I think what you were alluding to, which is the dark arts. What about all that dark stuff that can get in the way? What about curses and hexes, some of which we might put on ourselves unwittingly from previous lifetimes? What about that stuff that might have been placed on us or might have happened that we didn't necessarily see or have control over? So then what? Because then we start going down that path of the dark arts and stuff. What can we do about that if we don't even know if somebody's doing that to us? Yeah? And that I really feel for people, because, man, I've seen some shit. So we're never going to say, when we say superstitions are for losers, it's really not because you're a loser. It's because, again, you've been on the losing end of life at times, where if you're going to hold on and clutch at a straw to get you through the day, then you fucking do that, because you're better off. You might as well do that. At least you're acknowledging that there's so much more at play in our existence than just this superficial reality.
So how do you know? What do you do?
How do you know if you have real bad luck as opposed to it being your karmic reality?
Yes.
As in there's something more at play energetically than just your karmic bullshit.
Yes.
You really can't win. There isn't a single thing that you can look at and be like, that's a win for me. Because in your karmic reality, generally, you're going to have something. For every good, there's a bad, right? You're going to be operating from that polarity. But in terms of the deeper stuff, you're going to be like, fuck, I don't even know how that person's still alive. That shit never goes right for them. Doesn't fucking matter how, which way they, whatever they try, which way they look, they can go round and round. That's when you really got to look.
And what about if you're out of your karmic reality? How do you know then?
That's really unusual. This is the magic season. We have to acknowledge that if all is possible, then all is possible. And I know our editor fucking hates those statements. He's like, yeah, it's like air. It's like you're breathing and therefore I have to breathe and I need air. It's like, we're not allowed to say that. But if anything is possible, then everything is possible. We always have to acknowledge that the possibility for everything exists as long as you are in body in this earth plane where 3D and separation run amok. But if here we are and you have the power to magic, you are acknowledging that you are just not, you're not just acknowledging your divine self, you're acknowledging that you are the divine. You are loving yourself to the fullest possible light. Mm-hmm. You are holding yourself in the fullest possible light, and you're acknowledging yourself in the fullest possible light. That means that you have the power to toss out all your old superstitions because they can't possibly serve you. You have far surpassed all of that energy, and you are vibrationally not that person. And what keeps you stuck there, again, it's not even old wiring, because you'll have had to undo enough of that wiring to even get to that place. It's your mental, it's the mind games. It's not even your mental body, it's your mind games.
So really, it doesn't exist.
It does not exist. It doesn't exist. And all of those mind games, they keep you trapped and tied to all the old systems of separation and fear, where you just think this can all be wiped out in a second.
So how do you release yourself from that?
That's a really good question. Let me ask. You stop playing. The only way to end a game is to stop playing it. You don't engage with it. It's not even that you keep living. You just make a clear decision. I'm done playing this game.
I mean, I guess you have to do it more than once.
Yes, you do. I mean, you always say experience makes normal. If you have made karma your bitch, you were in your purpose, you were living your fate, you were understanding the fundamentals of magic, what more does one need to see that life can be different? And again, I'm going to tie this back, even though it's not in the outline. If we are all here to teach, and that was in some outline somewhere, and I don't think it even came up. If we're here to teach, we're here to model. We're here to model change. We're here to model how to be different. We're here, as in the previous episode, to correct behavior. We're not here to succumb to patterns because we don't know differently, because we do. And you've always said, if you know that there's better out there, you have to start acting better. I mean, it sounds like you've always given yourself this advice. So I feel like I'm just repeating them back to you. When we are at this place, episode 15, season 12 magic, then you understand that no one or nothing has the power to hurt us in a way in which we will fall victim to the malintentions of another person. We do not, and this is why we had episode 13 about the divine, to be able to have that full mantle divine identity is acknowledging
no one can touch you.
No one can touch you. As in, while you exist within that vast reality that contains separation reality, you do not have to be a part of that same and engage with that reality at the same time. Yet you are a part of that all. So you are not necessarily apart from anything. You are not separate, but you can exist within your full divine reality. And that's what makes you untouchable. And I know you and I have had that conversation before. How do you become untouchable?
For a long time, I've said I don't believe in luck. And it's true, I don't. When something happens to me, everyone's like, wow, you're so lucky. I'm like, it's not fucking luck. It's making karma my bitch and living my fate and allowing shit to unfold. Like even recently, like purpose related stuff. Someone's like, that's so lucky. And I'm like, it's not luck. I make my own luck by simply listening to myself and showing up.
Yeah. But it's not even luck. It's just fate, like you said.
Exactly. So I don't believe in luck. But it's funny because there's also on the other degree, I'm so aware of how powerful I am that it's almost like I'm trying to direct it. And I use that direction to, like, I use almost my rituals and my superstitions to direct it.
So it was in this season, not that long ago, that there was the episode about difference between magic and fate. And
yes, I loved that episode. It made me so happy because it made me realize that the things that we really enjoy and the things we love, they're not magic, they're fate.
They're fate. But it was look the other way, where when fate is happening, we're having to look the other way because the more we try to focus on stuff, usually that's when things go awry.
Because we try and control it and we obsess and all the rest of it and we become hyper-focused.
Exactly. Even though we can control our fate, that's kind of the sort of paradox. What we're really, quote unquote, controlling is, well, we've written this fate and I have choices to make within that. But with magic, you don't control magic. You can't even direct magic, remember? But you have to be in the driver's seat of magic because you have to have intentionality. So when you're telling me, well, I try to find a way to I don't remember what word you use. Like when I'm using some of these rituals, I'm trying to drive it towards something I think I want versus what I don't want. You end up sending a lot of mixed signals because something isn't clear. And if we don't have some level of clarity, magic doesn't work.
And really, if something's not clear, what we need to be looking for are the opportunities for clarity.
Yes, but actually what you need to be digging into is desire. Or just don't fucking go there.
Yeah.
Because if you're just going to be sitting there and trying to figure all of this out, that's when you start to fall into the mind games.
Yes.
And then you start conjuring or creating something. Maybe you want it, but it's not really exactly what you wanted. And then you're like, but how did this happen? Because we're at a point where we can be very powerful and creative beings. We can create things. You're not just going to create what it is that you want or desire. You can also just start creating messes. then you end up making a mess of that mess because you don't know how to get out of it, because you brought to it something that you didn't need to, all because you were like, I need something to save me from this. So part of this episode isn't just about, well, you don't need your superstitions anymore, but you also need to get to a point where you're not bringing some of your, not old bullshit, but some of your mind games to this, because the mind will start to fuck with you. And I'm not doing this to make anyone scared. You're far enough along. If you're at episode 15 in Magic, you're good. So stop thinking that you're not good. And I'm going to say that very clearly, because I know I'm not supposed to be saying, well, stop doing this. But the trap of thinking that something's going to go wrong, it's not going to necessarily be self-fulfilling prophecy if something's going to go wrong, but you may not totally get what you want either.
Simply also because you're just not present or enjoying it or anything.
No, because you're looking at it to prove something. And this is really for people who are dabbling in magic from a manifestation point of view.
I was thinking, this really reminds me of manifestation.
Yeah, something will make your life better because it's not already better. That's what starts to happen. So when we're looking at superstitions, I need something to make my life better because it's not everything I need it to be now.
Whereas actually you just have to keep living so that then it'll keep getting better. That's the point.
Yeah, but keep enjoying, not just keep living, but keep enjoying, because at this stage you are enjoying. You have known what is enjoyable. And you don't get to negate that or easily, conveniently forget it because one hiccup happened. Whether it's a hiccup,
which isn't even a hiccup, by the way. Usually,
no,
it's
not
a projection
usually.
of a hit. It's a projection of a what if this hiccup happened?
Yeah. Well, there was the episode early on in the season where we talked about how sometimes when we're playing with magic, we have to be able to experiment, and we cannot skew that experiment toward what we think it should be or some outcome that we think we need to have because we need to be proven right. It's a bit like when you're trying to understand your power in fate. So again, post karma, and you have to fuck around and find out what works for you in relationship, what works for you in your work and stuff. You've got to be able to be willing to fuck around.
Because also, and this is something I was always weirdly very aware of, nothing's as sweet if you forced it. The same exact thing could happen, but if you forced it, it doesn't hold the magical element to it. You'll never be sure about people's genuine feelings. You'll never be sure about your own power. You'll never be sure about anything other than, I have to keep holding onto this so tight in order for it to not die. But you'll never know if it was going to die. And I've said this to you because I had this big revelation where I was like, the more I try and manage anything, the more it blows up in my face. Not because I don't get what I want, but because my experience of it becomes so life and death when it's meant to be just life and more life.
Mm-hmm.
So really, if we can tap into that place of my fate has gotten me this far, my love has gotten me this far, and everything unfolds exactly as it needs to, then it allows you to just kind of lean back and enjoy the ride without worrying about who spilt the salt. Because the more we lean into that, the more our experience of life is powerless.
So I'm waiting for that nice moment to come, and then I won't have to deal. For me, when you say force it, I'm also just looking for that out. So if I can come out of this, if I'm just delivered this one nice moment that will make everything better. But we know you're either creating it or you're not. And if you're not operating from that place of power in any relationship of any kind that you have, then you're always going to be on the receiving end of things you don't want. And that's not a curse. It's not a karmic reality. That just becomes part of your human reality. Where then, okay, maybe that's just, you just make the best of that while dipping in and out of nice moments if you can connect to your magic or your power from time to time. Because that's what some people will do. Let's just be honest. Some people can reach that post-karmic reality and be living from one place in their faith where it's just enough, where better enough is fine.
Yeah, exactly. But if we go back to the most beautiful person in the room.
Okay. Yes, we're never going to be spared that this season, and that's okay.
You're not the most beautiful person in the room because you have the right nail color or the right lip color or the most flattering dress. You're the most beautiful person in the room because you look in the mirror and you're like, that's me. That's what it means to be that. So if you're walking into a room going, I need to be the most beautiful person in the room because of my outfit, then again, you're inside holding that I wouldn't be without it. Mm-hmm. Therefore, you can't be the most beautiful person in the room. You're the most well put together person in the room, or maybe you're the best dressed person in the room, or maybe you're the perfectly coiffed person in the room, but you're not the most beautiful person in the room. Because beauty is a natural state, whether or not you're wearing mascara. That's the difference. And this is what I'm starting to kind of click, is that you walk into a room and goes, and it's not I'm beautiful no matter what, is that I am inherently, naturally beautiful. Mm-hmm. So whatever I wear, however I interact, I'm coming from that space. Mm-hmm. I don't need anything else. Sure, it adds. Sure, it's a flattering cut, but it's not what makes me beautiful.
Don't need to have certain clothing or labels as an armor.
You just don't need your armor because your light is your armor, and it shines so far that everyone who comes into contact with it feels light too. Mm-hmm. That's enough. It's more. It's everything.
Thank you for listening. For more information, articles, and inspiration, find us at karmasmybitch.com and at karmasmybitch.insta.
And if you liked what you heard, please subscribe and leave us a review.